Hello, everyone. I'm John Leano, and I am interviewing Don Schweitzer on his podcast. We've switched places at the table. He's now on that side of the table. I'm on this side, and I'm going to ask him some questions about his practice, his family life, and some hacks that he has that have helped him become a successful person in what he does in Pasadena. Hope you enjoy it. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Don Schweitzer's podcast, Pasadena Pioneers. I'm John Leano with Brian's Cleaners and Laundry, and I had an idea that we should probably flip the script or have the tables turn and put Don on the other side of the microphone this time and have someone grill him with questions about his practice, his personal life, but not too personal.
Thank you.
And
we won't go too deep into my closet.
We won't do a deep dive. We won't do a real deep dive. But I thought it would be really interesting and beneficial because I know you through the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We actually came in the same year, I think 2015.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's you, me, and Raphael.
And Raphael, yeah. And I was chair of the board during the pandemic and then followed by Raphael, and now you're the chair of the board. And we appreciate all the work you're doing for the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you.
I know a lot of our members will be watching this, so I thought this would be a great opportunity for them to get to know you a little bit better. We appreciate you coming to our events and supporting our organization and getting to know the members on a personal level. So maybe we could just dive right in, huh?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So I know you have this law practice here in Pasadena. It's thriving. It's very successful. Can you share a personal story or experience that inspired you to become a family law attorney, especially one that highlights your passion for helping families navigate difficult situations?
Yeah, I mean, my desire to work in family law really is based on a lot of experiences, and in some ways, John, it's kind of built into my DNA. You know, I always say that people that work in family law, you either really like it or you hate it, you know, and we've had people come to our practice and been excellent attorneys, great law schools, top of their class, and they work here for like a year and a half, and suddenly they start putting on 100 pounds, they start seeing a therapist, they go, you know what, I got to get out of here. No offense, and we've had some of those people. For me, if I could point to a lot of different incidents. You know that I'm a former police officer, and I've responded to a lot of domestic violence calls. And, you know, those things were very meaningful to me. One call in particular was I was a cop in the suburbs of Chicago, you know, a long time ago. And back then, the police and the prosecutors didn't really come to the rescue of victims of domestic violence. There was one incident that I'll never forget, and that is this family that we were responding to almost on a weekly basis. And that was very common. Cops would show up, and we were told, just separate the parties, tell the man to go get a hotel, and we don't even care like whether or not there was visible injuries or anything like that. Just keep the peace, because it's a quote-unquote civil matter. Police don't get involved in this stuff, right? So this one family we've been responding to quite a bit, and I roll up, and when I roll up, this lady's got this really big shiner. I mean, it was really nasty looking. And my supervisor wasn't around. And I said, to hell with this. And I put the guy in handcuffs and I arrested him. Over there in Illinois, it was more of a detailed procedure of booking somebody and getting them involved because you had to go down to the county complex to do it. But anyways, I went through that. Felt good about my decision. And what happened was the chicken came home the roost, so to speak. You know, I had to attend court then, like about 2 months later. I kind of forgot about the case in a way. And I'm getting ready to go, and I get called into the station by my caveman supervisor, sergeant, and he says, "What are you doing here? You've got 28,000 people that you've got to protect, and you're taking a car off of the street, and you're driving to the courthouse on a domestic case." And he read me the riot act. And I was so angry at that. I mean, this is because the funny part of the story is I got back in my patrol car and I had to go pick up somebody at the yard. You know, she was a dispatcher or whatever she was. She gets in the car, and to make room for her, I pick up my clipboard and I put it on the speaker for the radio, and it presses the button. And on the way back to the station, I start tearing into my supervisor, that guy's you know what, he's blah, 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 I can't believe I'm doing this. And he's in the dispatcher's room listening. And he's leaning over and he's going, "Ooh, I'm going to get him." Oh, And so suddenly I see this car as I'm driving back to the station. It was another sergeant come screeching around. He goes, "Wah, wah, wah, wah." He says, "Your microphone's on, right?" And I take the clipboard off, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I probably just lost my job, right? Fortunately, I had it in good with the chief, and the chief called me up and he was laughing. And he says, "Yeah, next time don't press the mic, right?" So anyways, I go to court on this thing. And the guy ends up convicted. And this lady wrote me a card afterwards, about how thankful she was that I protected her, and stuff. And I thought, my gosh, that was very meaningful. It was an opportunity to serve somebody and get some immediate feedback with regard to their appreciation for your services. And when I became a deputy DA, I prosecuted a lot of domestic violence cases, and there was another case where the lady came into my office before the trial. I recorded our conversation. She told me exactly what had happened. She didn't want a divorce, John. She was a very religious lady. She just wanted him to go to some counseling and some therapy and stuff because she wanted him to get treatment because he had an anger problem. So our custom was to record the conversations because of the fact that victims typically recant. They'll go into criminal court and say, "I didn't say that," and you got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury that it happened. So we went through the spiel, right? She said what she said. She goes to court. She takes a stand. She denies that she said it. We play the recording, and the guy's convicted. And the judge then sets it for sentencing, within 2 months. 2 months goes by, and I walk into court, and where's the victim? The victim is sitting in the audience. And I thought, oh, man, she's going to take my head off, man, because she's probably going to deal with this guy, right? I go walking by her, and she looks at me, and she winks at me and gives me a thumbs up. And the guy was sentenced to, go to domestic violence classes and things of that nature, So, it's very personal, the work that we do. And the gratification that we get when we really go the extra mile for our clients, is meaningful. I've had a life of service as a police officer, a prosecutor, now as a family law attorney, and there's just this need to serve, and I do so in my capacity. So I think that's where the desire comes. You should know this. When we practice family law, not all of our clients are happy about our services. A lot of times we could do the best job, but they don't like us, or they think that we should have been tougher, or for whatever reason. But we know when we're doing well. And even if I don't get that satisfaction from a client, I know that I've really done the best I can for them. So that's kind of why I do what I do.
I knew you were a police officer, and I didn't know that there was a link to that and what you do now. So that's a good insight for me.
Yeah, I was also a cop in Santa Ana. So I transferred over here, and there was more domestic violence situations and stuff. What was interesting about that is by the time I got into Santa Ana, the mood started changing about domestic violence. Now we were handing out pamphlets. Say, you do have rights. Then eventually the O.J. Simpson case came.
Pamphlets for the aggressor or for the victim?
It was almost for the aggressor. No, it was for the victims and stuff. And, in Chicago, because I come from a small town in Illinois, suburb of Chicago, we would run licensed sirens to these cases. And literally, we'd get into that door, and you'd hear pots and pans going. We'd get in and jump on people, and we'd wrestling around in the snow. In Santa Ana, where the crime rate was quite high, typically we'd get there 2 hours after the fact, and the victim would be bruised answering the door, and the guy would be sitting there drinking a beer, watching TV, and stuff. So it was a different type of response, but the attitude had changed slightly until OJ came, and then the world changed, and stuff. We don't have time to talk about that, but it
is football season.
Yeah, well, there's actually no relevance to that. That people always think that in Super Bowl there's more domestic violence. That's a bunch of BS. That's just politics.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah. Supposedly, there's more domestic violence on Super Bowl day because you got all these guys sitting around drinking, and that's not what domestic violence is about. Domestic violence is about power and control. It's about the lack of empathy. It's really about an attitude that goes way back. And that's what we're really facing in those cases. We're not talking about people sitting around watching football.
So, how do you manage the emotional toll of dealing with the challenges and the
Oh, God,
conflicts
that's a great question.
in family law cases?
Yeah.
Like what strategies have you found effective in maintaining your own sanity and well-being and mental health?
That is a perfect question because I have to concentrate on that with my associates, and actually all of my staff, because all of my staff deal with people in trauma. And it's no different than, to me, working as a police officer or a fire person, or a paramedic or somebody working in the ER room. We're dealing with trauma and traumatized people that really are acting their worst a lot of times. And we see a lot of, hurt. You take that home with you, right? To some degree, even when you don't think you're taking it home. I have an advantage over most family law attorneys to the extent that I was a homicide detective, and then I was a prosecutor, and I prosecuted homicides, and I've seen the very worst of the worst. I mean, dead bodies. I've been in morgues, and stuff. And so when I deal with family law cases, I don't think that they're insignificant issues by any means. I think they're very significant. But I know that there's a lot worse out there and stuff. And so for that reason, when I go home, I could sit and relax and not let it really eat at me the way it might other people. But it's still there, and what do you do? Well, we try to tell our folks here is you got to have a life outside of practicing family law. For me, I love to play pickleball. And by the way, John, do you play?
Not yet.
Okay, well, we got to get you on the court, okay? So, I mean, my wife and I play pickleball. I like to work out. I like a lot of different things and stuff. And I think taking time off is really important. There's a lot of, not only family law attorneys, but people in business generally that don't take time off. I was at a provisor's meeting not too long ago, and I said, how many of you take 4 weeks out of the year? And there was only 2 of us that raised our hands out of a group of about 35 people. 3 weeks, maybe a couple more hands, 2 weeks. You'd be surprised at how many people didn't even take 1 week off a year who are self-employed or in business and stuff, and that's not healthy. I don't care how much it hurts the bottom line. You got to take time off, and it's more than just taking time off during the holidays. So that's important, and surrounding yourself with love and doing healthy things for yourself, because it's real easy to get a quick fix of alcohol or substance abuse or whatever addictions and stuff. And I really look after my people here because I know that they're going through that stuff. And a lot of the folks are coming straight out of law school, the attorneys and stuff, and they've never experienced the stuff that they're seeing, until they come in here. So I have to look out after them.
So I know there's multiple layers to your life, Don. You're, an attorney, and you're also a husband, and you're very involved in the community. So in addition to your legal career, you're known for your community service and your philanthropy. Could you tell us about a specific project or cause that's particularly close to your heart and why it's important to you?
Oh my gosh, there's a few. I could say that one thing that I would, it's no longer in existence, but something that I'll never stop loving, and is we started a speech scholarship contest for the local high school kids when I was the president of the Bar Association. Actually, it was before I was the president. I was the vice president. Steve Yee, another attorney, and I put together this tournament, and within 6 years, we had the whole St. Gabriel Valley rocking, man.
Wow.
We had all the student high school kids coming in. We put on these big tournaments and everything, and giving to the youth was really, really important. And that's kind of crossed over to being part of the Pasadena City College Foundation. I'm the president of that now, and the project that I think the overall thing is giving to the students. We're going to have a ceremony in a few weeks, and it's our end of the year scholarship ceremony where we hand out about $1 million worth of scholarships. And we've
Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we raise money for these kids and for the campus and everything, and to give people that opportunity, where they might not have had the opportunity to go to school or be able to pay for school is really important, and I love doing that. I work, very much for the Foothill Unity Center as well, and that's for the people that are in the community that aren't on the streets yet, but they're hungry, they're in need, and people don't see them. People don't realize that even though we live in a affluent city, that there's a lot of people out there that are just barely making it. And I like to say that could be your brother, your sister, your neighbor, somebody that you care about who doesn't have that backup, and stuff. So it's a food drive, Foothill Unity Center, and it also provides things like a mobile dental clinic, back to school, and all those little things that really count. They all add up and they count, and that's been very significant, and something that I'll probably never stop being part of.
It's an amazing organization, Foothill Unity Center.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but they're near the In-N-Out, right?
The Pasadena center is here, but its headquarters is on the border of Arcadia and Monrovia. We just bought now it's been about 5 years, but we purchased a building over there with a capital campaign, and it's significant. I mean, if you ever get a chance, you have to go with me. We'll take a look at it. But
love to.
But it's amazing what the people on that board have accomplished, and it's just been a privilege to work with them.
Awesome. So as someone deeply involved in your community, in our community, what advice do you have for individuals looking to make a positive impact and give back to their communities?
Well, I think that you need to, first of all, understand that there is no greater gratification or reward than volunteering and helping.
Amen to that.
Yeah. I love work. I mean, I'm a workaholic, and everybody that knows me knows that I work 7 days a week. But I'm going to tell you right now that if I put in 8 hours at Foothill Unity Center or for the Pasadena City College, the gratification I get is more than anything that I could possibly have if I'm earning money, and stuff, just serving others. So come in with the spirit of that, understand that, try it. A lot of us are just too afraid to try. You may drive down the street and see a homeless person and say, gosh, I just wish that I could do something. So maybe I'll pull over and I'll give that person $10. Well, that feels good, and that is good that you're giving money to people that are in need. But if you want to do something significant, join something that already exists. There's plenty of organizations within our community, Union Station, there's just so many of them that are here, and they'll embrace you with open arms. And you don't have to go from 0 to 90. You could just kind of get your feet wet and go in there. But just try something. That's what I think that you ought to do. And then try to find something that you're very, very passionate about. There are people that serve at the PCC Foundation that, man, they give it their all. I was just at a ceremony yesterday where we opened a new center for students that were foster children, right? And it's called the Resource Center that's on campus. Now, I was sitting next to a guy who got me into the thing. His name is Lonnie Shield, and his wife. They donated a huge amount of money to the center because they were passionate about that, and their contributions to the school go way beyond that. I mean, they've been part of the Pasadena City College Foundation for years. Now, Lonnie may not be somebody that works at Union Station, although it wouldn't surprise me if he did. But, you have to find what you're passionate about. There's so many ways to help and to give, in this community. It doesn't always have to be one thing. So find what you like.
Awesome. Very good. Well, now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to pull back the curtain somewhat.
Now he's going to torture me, okay?
So, Don, do you have any guilty pleasures, such as a favorite TV show or a movie or a snack that help you unwind?
Yeah, I've got one that I used to be ridiculed for it. Now it's more accepting.
The snack or the TV show?
It's more than that. It's kind of a TV show. I love MMA. Not participating. I love to watch. I mean, I'm too old to participate. If I got into one of those cages, I'd get creamed right away.
And for those that don't know what MMA is, what does that stand for?
Mixed martial arts, particularly the UFC. I'm a big fan of the UFC. I followed it from almost the beginning, and there's rarely a Saturday night where it's on where I'm not watching it. And I pay that stupid the pay-per-view money and stuff. And, I'm just crazy about it. And so, unfortunately, I'm married to a wonderful woman who tolerates me and will go to these events with me when when we go. We've gone to Vegas and things like that. But when
Maria never struck me as someone that would watch MMA or...
Well, John, she not only will watch it, there was a time where she started training in MMA after I introduced her to it.
Oh,
finally,
man.
I had to say,
Okay.
hey, you're going to hurt yourself doing that, right? But when I first started talking about it, it's like, oh, that's so violent and stuff. And people don't think of like a family law attorney, being involved with that stuff. But it's just something that I really like to watch, So that's a big thing for us. or for me, I should say.
Okay. What's the most memorable piece of legal advice or wisdom you've received in your career, and who shared it with you?
Oh gosh, here's one thing that was really good was before I started this practice, I worked for a guy that had been practicing family law for about 30 years. And when you're new to this profession, one of the things that you frequently do is you ask why. Okay, why are these people getting a divorce? Why is that person behaving the way that he is if he wants reconciliation? Why is she tormenting? Why? You know, and I'd go to him and ask him, and he says, Don, one day he said this. He said, Don, sit down. I sat down in front of him. He said, here's a pad of paper, and here's a pen. I'm going to answer your question. He said, now, write down your question. So I wrote it down on the paper, and he said, now hand it to me. So I reached across the desk, and I gave him that paper with my question on it, and he crumbled it up, and he threw it in the garbage can, and he says, there's your answer. You'll never know. Okay? So the best advice really was to get my thinking clear is stop worrying about the why. You know, what you learn in practicing law is you're not there to judge people, right? You're not there to ridicule people, talk down to them, be a professor to a student. You're there to help them with their problem. And as I tell my associates, I wouldn't have a law practice if we just represented perfect people, okay? People come to me with their problems, and there's been mistakes made, and we all make them, right? I don't know a life that exists where people don't make mistakes. So they come here, and we try to help them out. Now, we can't represent people if we're so disgusted by the facts of the case that it repulses us, and we can't give them our best. That's our ethics. We don't see that really in family law that much. I mean, it could come up but I haven't turned anybody down because of that. But the thing is I stopped asking why a long time ago, and I'm a better attorney for it because if somebody comes in and I know that hey, you were wrong, let's see if we can now turn this around a little bit and fix you and get you to the finish line. Ultimately, what we want to see is our clients at the end of the case. And I always tell people, I want to bump into you at Starbucks, and you're a normal person again. I barely recognize you, right? And that happens. And it's the coolest thing in the world when I look at somebody. I can't even believe that you were in my office at one point.
It's very gratifying, you know? Isn't it?
Yeah, just to see the turnaround in people's minds and their spirit and everything. Because the work that we do is with people who are broken marriages, broken people and stuff. And if we could get them to the finish line and stuff and get them into their new life and encourage them along the way, that's what this is all about.
Agree. So as a prominent figure in our community, can I say that about you?
Well, I don't know if it's true, but you can say it.
Okay. So as a prominent figure in our community, what's your favorite local hangout or hidden gem that you'd recommend to our listeners, your listeners?
Do I have to be consistent with my doctor order diet, or can I just let it hang?
You let, like the Commodore song, Brick House, let it all hang out.
Well, I love Schmitty's. Schmitty's is out here in Lake Avenue here and stuff, and I love the service of that place. I love the cornbread. I love the intimate setting. There might be fancier restaurants or anything.
They're a chamber member, right?
I think they are.
I think they are. Okay, we have to verify that.
Okay, yeah. If not, we might have to excise that. So
no, well, or we'll just go recruit them and have them join the chamber.
Okay, yeah. Schmitty's is a place that I love. There's a place that's very near and dear to my heart, and that's called Cerritos. You've never even heard of it, have you?
I have. It's here in Pasadena, right?
Yeah.
Old Town?
It is.
On Colorado?
Yes.
Okay, I've been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my wife and I met there. Okay, we met through eHarmony, and the story is that back then eHarmony was brand new, and you get to the point where you could show each other your pictures. And I had a grainy photograph of myself with my daughter in front of me, and you barely make me out, right? And her picture was like, oh my God, she's beautiful. I don't know. I hope this isn't a bait and switch, right? I mean, she's beautiful. So we meet over on Colorado Boulevard, we decide to meet at Cerritos. I'm from Huntington Beach. She's over here. She's got a house. I see her walking down the street, and she's walking straight towards me, John. And she's as beautiful as she was in the picture, man.
So when you saw her walking down the street, you knew that was her?
Oh, instantaneously.
Yeah, okay.
You no missing this lady, right? So I walk up, and we meet at the intersection, and she doesn't recognize me. because of my grainy photograph, right? And now I'm in this very.
She probably thought this is the bait and switch, right?
Who's this weirdo, man? So I'm like, God, I don't want to freak her out or anything like that. So I probably made the wrong call, but I didn't like say, hey, I'm Don. How are you? I just followed her across the crosswalk to the other side into the restaurant. She sits down. She turns around and I'm like, hi, I'm here. So it was Cerritos, and the idea was we'd get a drink, and if we enjoyed each other's company, then we'd have dinner. And I got to the second stage. We went to dinner, right, and stuff. But that place is so meaningful to me that we just had our 20-year anniversary, and we ate there. And the owner didn't know our story. We told him and stuff.
The same owner?
Yeah, it's Jack over there. Yeah. So that's a place that I really love. There's some places in town that have closed down or are closing down that really, I won't mention them, but it's killing me. Some of the good restaurants that have. Yeah.
So if you were to create a Don Schweitzer cocktail, what ingredients would it include and how would you name it? Or what would you name it, rather?
So do you know Steve E? He's an employment law attorney.
You mentioned him earlier.
Yeah. So he's one of my best friends, and he makes the best old fashioned that on this planet. And he's got a little bar in his house, right? Or actually a large bar in his house, and the way he makes it is a combination of things, and I probably can't recreate it. But he also takes that orange and he puts it around it and stuff like that. And you drink it, and it's so perfect. And stuff. You just want to keep drinking it, and stuff. Now, I don't drink it anymore because of, I'm trying to lose weight and all this stuff, But what would I call it? I'd probably call it the Stevie, because only he can make it like that. Yeah.
And that would be your signature cocktail.
Yeah.
You'd call it the Stevie.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, so an attorney has a signature cocktail named after another attorney.
I would have to. I mean, when I get sued, copyright or, whatever, so, we're good friends, but he could take me to court. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I don't know what I would call it. What's interesting is that old fashions, I think, have been around a while. Have you ever had one?
No, I don't drink.
Okay, well,
not alcohol at least.
Okay, well, if you had an old fashioned, they're fantastic.
Okay. But I'll take your word for it.
I went to Chicago with my family. I'm like, we're at a place. I was like, old fashioned. Nobody knew what one was. It was kind of like, I don't know if it came from California. Now when you go over there, you can order them. But it's delicious.
Okay.
But don't drink it since you don't drink. So.
All right. Before I switch gears, I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm looking at the clock here, so I know we're kind of under the gun. If you could have dinner with any historical or fictional character, who would it be, and what's the one question you'd ask them?
Oh, boy. I know who I would want to sit next to. There ain't no question about that. It would be Abraham Lincoln, without a doubt.
Good choice.
Yeah. I think the question I'd have to ask him is, how in the hell did he acquire such knowledge of, of our Constitution, our country, what's right and wrong or equality? How did he get that feeling that drove him to preside over the worst war this country's ever had and get us to the finish line? How did he do that and prosecute that war like he meant it? There's something about that guy who grows up. He's born in Kentucky. I've been to where he was born. Lived in a shack in Indiana on a failed farm. He's poor. He's uneducated, but well-read. He reads. He goes into Illinois, self-educates himself, becomes a lawyer, and then starts running for office and losing. Never has a significant office. And suddenly, the chicken comes home to roost. This country is in need of resolving a very significant problem, slavery. And he goes on a debate circuit, debating a judge, and before you know it, he is elected as president, and he's hated. He's hated by people, and he's smuggled into Washington, D.C. on a train in disguise. And that's how his presidency starts. People are wanting to kill him from the beginning. And he's got a lot of pushback. He's ridiculed in the papers. And somehow this guy has the fortitude to prosecute the war on behalf of all of us while his family is going crazy. He's got a wife that's unstable. He's got children that are dying. He himself has chronic depression. He's not a perfect person. But somehow he could write beautifully. They say he's one of the best writers ever. If you know, and his profound thinking about things, and winning the war and letting the enemy down gently so that we could go on. I mean, it's just incredible. He's the most important historical figure that I could think of. And if I could just sit and spend time with him, would be great. The question I would ask is, other than your genius, how did you become you? I'd really like to know that. So.
You probably wouldn't have the answer either.
You're right.
But
he
you never
probably
know.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
We fictionalize our heroes and everything. He's more human than we realize, right? I mean, obviously, he didn't live a perfect life. I'm sure that there's things that he wouldn't want to talk about and stuff, and he had to learn a lot of lessons along the way. But in this case, history speaks for itself. His letters, his writings, his decisions, they speak for that, for what was right, and stuff. And I tell you what, I wish I was in that booth. I wish I was in the Ford Theater to stop that shooting. I mean, I mean that's how much that he's loved where I come from. I come from Illinois.
Great choice. I love it. I love it. Okay, we're rounding third and we're heading home. I'm looking at the clock. So this next round is going to be kind of rapid fire response. So
Okay.
fill in the blank or complete the sentence. Short answers, 1 word to 2 sentences or less. Okay, you ready, Don?
Okay.
Fasten your seatbelt. The one thing I try to do on a daily basis is.
Kiss my wife. I more than one time though, but
My favorite quote is.
you can please all people some of the time, some people all the time, but you cannot please all people all the time. And who said that, by the way?
Maria Schweitzer.
No, she says that to me no, that's Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
I thought so. I was trying to be funny, but failed at humor. Okay. What are you currently reading?
It's the Elon Musk new. It just came out. The biography. I'm about 3/4 down with it. Yeah.
Okay. I'll ask you more about it after you're done.
Okay.
What's your definition of success?
Success is the journey. It's about enjoying what you're doing and giving it your all, not calling it in. It's about treating each day as a new opportunity, waking up and how are you going to show up for today? Giving it your very best. It's not about the end. Okay, I always have to pinch myself and say, look where I'm at here. We've created a lot, but there's not like a time where it stops and I'm like, okay, I've accomplished something. It's about our day-to-day doing it, and when the time comes that I have to end, then I have to end. But it's the process that is success. If you have that internal gratitude for what you do, that's success, and that's why I'm saying that volunteering and serving others, that's success. It's not about the amount of money you earn or the toys or anything else like that. I mean, it's so superficial, and our society, to me, is so corrupted by the fact that we're materialistic and stuff. But it's the good people in our society that serve others. Those are the successful people. The coach on the wrestling team that gets his kid into wrestling and then produces a state champion. It's about the person that works at the shelter and is able to bring people in and find some home for them. That's success.
Very good. Smartphone? You have one?
Is that what they call them these days?
Yeah. Are you an Apple guy or an Android guy?
Apple.
Apple. What's your number one app? Your go-to app?
Oh, God, again, I can't answer that. I'm like a lawyer, and I can't answer those. So I've got a couple of apps. One of them is they've got a to-do one that's Microsoft that I really, really love. So that's the one that I'm mostly using now, so that I keep. The other thing is the clock that they have on there. I don't know about you, but I need before you came in here, I had 10 minutes. I had an alarm on my phone. John's coming in, because I get so engrossed in what I'm doing that I need that alarm. So I'd say between the clock and the to-do thing.
The clock and the to-do thing. Okay, we got 2 minutes here. 2-minute warning. We're going to do Tom Brady now. Quick, short answers. In 5 years, I hope to be.
In 5 years, I hope to be where I'm at right now. I just hope that we've developed even further than where we're at. I don't want to be stagnant. So the law firm that we've produced, I want it to be even greater than what it is. I want to be even closer to my kids. I want to have more stories to tell. And I want to have a lot more life to experience. I want to be here in 5 years.
Other than Exhibit A and Pasadena Pioneers, what's a podcast you recommend?
So this is something that's controversial for some people, and it shouldn't be. But I like.
We got 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Do you know the Joe Rogan Experience? To me, I love that podcast because it's a weird thing that you could listen to people talk for 2 hours and just hang on to what they're saying, and you could drive, and there's so much to learn from that, and it's entertaining. So, yeah.
We need to get you on his podcast, unless you've been on it already.
I would love to, but he would find nothing interesting about me.
When you were younger, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a cop.
Which you did.
I did.
You did.
And then I wanted to be an attorney, yeah.
What's the go-to band or musical artist on your playlist?
There's a few. Okay, my lawyer answered again, but Bruce Springsteen has always been
The
a very
boss.
passionate one for me because his stories that he tells in his music and the soul and everything. But I'm also into, believe it or not, a group called Chicago. The early days, not the later stuff. But if you listen to the early days, there was so much jazz and soul in that music.
Now, I know you're a very down-to-earth human guy, but we have about 10 seconds left. What's your superpower, Don Schweitzer?
I have none. I would say this: the realization of who I really am, which is I'm just nobody. I have no special talents. I'm not particularly good at anything. It's just that I have a lot of desire to do well.
We got the flashing light. I guess we're done. Hey, everybody, that's Don Schweitzer. I hope that we were able to pull back the curtain a little bit and dig into his life and learn more about him. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Don, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing this.
You were awesome.
Thank you for letting me sit in your hot seat.
You know what? I think you're hired.